It's one of those days here at the Nürburgring where the weather is having a huge impact on proceedings. Welcome to a wet, a foggy, a cold Nürburgring, and welcome to round 9 of the GT4 European Series. David Addison trackside, looking down onto a grid that is based on a qualifying session which was wet to begin with. It dried out and the times improved, but we've had pretty decent weather over the course of the weekend up until today. We've had a GT warm-up session cancelled because of the weather. We've had one practice session stopped early because of the weather. We've had a Clio race start and end under a safety car because of the weather. And this race will start under the safety car because of the weather. It's partly the rain. It's partly the fact that there's a lot of spray that's hanging in the air. But also, we've got this mist, and one moment it looks like it's clearing, and then it rolls in again. And so, for the race director, it is a real nightmare, this, trying to second-guess what the conditions are going to do. From our vantage point on the start and finish straight, looking across the circuit, one moment you can see trees, the next they're completely hidden again. And for the drivers, it really is going to be a real test of finding grip and finding visibility. From the officials' point of view, they need to make sure that one marshal's post can see the next, but that, looking up the pit straight, gives you an idea of just how grim the conditions are. It will be a safety car start. The race is due to get underway any moment, and the grid has on pole position the car of Zavotec Sport. It is one of the two KTM Crossbow GT4s. Thankfully for the drivers, these days a closed car, not the open car that it used to be. It's going to be Peter Ebner who will start in the yellow fronted car. Look on the inside of the road there. The pole position driver that he shares with Sasha Halek. And Peter Ebner, former bike racer, former rally driver, he's going to be the man to start. And then alongside in the BMW is Rob Severs. Now Rob Severs is a man who has done quite a lot of good things this year in the AM class, and it's the AM driver, the lower graded driver, who will start this race as the safety car moves away, and the race officially now starts as the safety car leaves the grid. Rob Severs, the BMW dealer, then sharing with Simon Knapp. The second row of the grid, Jordan Witt and the little white chevron there, dwarfed rather by Marcel Nooren's huge Chevrolet that looms over him, the Camaro GT4, as they head off down towards turn 1 into the Mercedes arena. It is Jordan Witt, whose father David Witt owns the Chevron brand these days. It's a company with a great heritage going back to the 1960s when Derek Bennett, the original owner from Bolton, created marvellous little sports cars, many of which had great success on the original Nordschleife here, like the B8 and the B16. But these days, Chevron under the Witt ownership. Jordan himself, a very quick driver in the British Porsche Championship in Carrera Cup GB. He shares with Marcus Clutton, the man from Oldham, who's a very, very quick driver as well. So in these conditions, maybe that Chevron is one to watch. And then fourth on the grid, Marcel Nooren starting in the V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaro that he shares with Jelle Beelen, and 2 wins, in fact, this year have been taken by Nooren and Beelen. This is how the starting order looks. Peter Ebner, who's had 2 wins as well with Sasha Halek, he is the man starting from a notional pole position. He leads the way from Rob Severs, then Jordan Witt ahead of Marcel Nooren. Daniel Uckermann, who's had a win this year, will start 5th ahead of the Swedish driver Håkan Ricknäs. Then for 7th in the order, Bernhard van Oranje starting, sharing with Ricardo van der Ende. Dietmar Lackinger is behind him. Then there is Tim Scheerbath, who yesterday qualified for this race and then went off to the Nordschleife and took part in the RCN event, the club level endurance race on the Nordschleife. Behind him is Pavel Lefterov, who won the 2 races at Spa. There's Jörg Wiebahn's BMW, Carsten Struve with the Porsche, the orange and white Porsche, former DTM racer going back 2 decades. He, in turn, is ahead of Luke Brahms, who's had a win this year, sharing with Duncan Hausmann. Then you've got Joachim Söderström ahead of Stefan Kuss, and it is Thomas Martinsson in the Bald Eagle Racing BMW M3 that completes the order. There should have been the British Optimum Motorsport team running a Ginetta G55 for Salah Yoluk, but that had a hold radiator in free practice after a drama, and that in turn cooked the engine. And I think there is a spare engine, but that's being preserved for British GT, which is in a week's time at Snetterton, and it's rather important because they're second in the GT4 class there, that they have a good engine for next week rather than risking it here. You can understand from that shot why we've got the safety car, because the fog is back in again, and that part of the circuit visibility is pretty limited. So over the timing line they come. This all counts within the 50 minutes that they have for this race, and there is a mandatory pit stop window. That is between 20 and 30 minutes. It is a 90-second pit stop unless you do a tyre change from one type to another. In other words, if you go slick to slicks, that's fine. But if you do slicks to wets or wets to slicks, it's 125 seconds for the pit stop. I'm not convinced we're going to get to a situation where people need to change from the type of tyre. That said, turn 1 looks a lot brighter. So this is the real dilemma for the race director, because it's not consistent all the way around the lap, and he's trying to second guess what the conditions are going to do. We've got actually a couple of cars looking at this that haven't made it to the grid, one of which is 71, Tim Scheerbath. That car being shown as still in the pits and therefore not on track, and the other is 11, Stefan Kuss and Peter Christian van Oranje. That car has not made it to the grid either, so it's a slightly depleted field. We're down to 14 as the cars work their way past the fans down through the Mercedes arena. It's the short version of the Grand Prix circuit in use, so they have the cut-through hairpin rather than going right down to the bottom of the hill. There's a drift championship as well in use at the Nürburgring this weekend, and so the bottom end of the circuit is theirs. In the championship, we have just the 2 races here and then 2 at Misano to go before the end of the year, but the championship and the point scoring becomes a little bit more intricate, because you have to drop, or you can drop, your worst weekend. Not 2 individual races, but the combined weekend. So you can't drop a race from here and a race from Nagaro. You have to drop a weekend, in other words, 2 races from the same venue. And also you must count the points at Misano at the end of the year to try to make sure that everybody goes to the Italian circuit. So trying to work out how a championship is going to be resolved and whether it could be done here in race 2 is not quite as easy as some championships in order to look at the maths. But I think as far as the overall situation is concerned, it will go down to the wire. In the AMS, Daniel Uckermann has a huge advantage over Pavel Lefterov. He's looking like the man in the box seat there. But for overall, Marcel Nooren and Jelle Beelen on 167 against Duncan Houseman's 130. Jörg Wiebahn, whose Aston Martin was destroyed in the much publicised incident at the Red Bull Ring back in early June. Now that he's got a BMW M3, he's not being quite as competitive, sadly, but he is racking up points, and so Jörg Wiebahn runs 3rd in the championship. We are going to have the race underway officially at the end of this lap. The safety car will be in this time, so we're getting set, ready to go racing. Cars working their way now with visibility improving and the drivers having a handle on where any standing water might be through the Mercedes arena. And then those with the big powerful V8s, well, they're going to have a fairly leery time, aren't they, for the first few laps, especially given that this first stint of the race is being conducted by the lower graded driver. The way that the championship works, like many GT categories now, it's an unofficial pro-am basis. One driver is regarded as the pro, the other as the am, although in some cases they are of comparable experience. But this is for the lower graded driver, and Peter Ebner then is the man leading the way. Came out of motorbike racing, then had a spell as a rally driver, and then made the step from rallying to the VLN, the endurance series on the Nordschleife, which is probably rather similar to doing some tarmac rallies, that with the length of the lap and the type of topography of the circuit. And then coming into GT4 this year, he's co-driven by Sascha Halek, who's raced in BMWs in the Porsche Alpenpokal, and also had a spell last year in the Blancpain Sprint series, driving a Lamborghini. So as we look at the back of the field turning through, 96 there is Luc Brahms, another experienced Dutch saloon car racer. He's driven in the Dutch Tourenwagen Cup. He's raced in the 24-hour series. He's raced in GT4, sharing this car with Duncan Houseman. It should make progress as the road dries, and it will definitely make progress once the hugely experienced Houseman is behind the wheel. So for the front of the grid then, it is Peter Ebner in the KTM with Rob Seber's BMW behind. Somewhere in the gloom are some cars, and we're about to let them loose. So we're set to go racing then. Race 1 of 2 for the GT4 European Series. 50 minutes plus 1 lap the duration, and away they go. The cars now sprint off down towards the Mercedes arena, and it is then Peter Ebner who leads the way, but coming up to challenge on the outside line there, Rob Seber in the BMW as they break for the corner. Jordan Witt 3rd in the Chevron, trying to repel the challenge of Marcel Nooren, who is right up behind him in the Chevrolet, and the BMW then slithers its way in 2nd spot through the Mercedes arena. To the very outside there goes Rob Seber, looking for some traction. In 5th spot, as they work their way around the Mercedes arena, is Hakan Rickness in the red and white sideways Porsche there, and a spin behind him. Daniel Uckermann has got it all wrong. Is he going to be collected? No, thankfully, but that was very close indeed. Carsten Struve just managing to avoid him. Uckermann then will hook a gear, one hopes, and get going as the race leaders come side by side down to the hairpin. Rob Sever in the Equerris run, BMW on the inside line there. He should have the tighter line through the corner, but he couldn't brake as late as did Peter Ebner, so Ebner hangs on to the advantage. Out of the hairpin, power down, back steps out. The KTM leads the BMW, leads the Chevron, leads the Chevrolet, leads the Porsche. That's the order at the moment for the top 5. Jordan Witt in the little Chevron trying to defend from the huge Chevrolet behind him. Marcel Nooren at the wheel of the Camaro, through on the inside there, gets the power down, and with all that torque in the wet, the Chevrolet able to power its way through on the inside. In 5th spot then, you've got number 21, Håkan Rickness, with the red and white Porsche, another experienced driver from Carrera Cup Sweden, Carrera Cup Germany, as well as having raced GT Porsches in series like this. And so the leading 5 still running together pretty much at the end of a difficult first racing lap. It is the end of lap 4 of the race itself. And they work their way now up towards the line. In the dry qualifying, they were lapping at about 96 seconds. It's going to be much slower today, but you can see how the fog is lifting, and the weather forecast is due to be a lot better come midday here. So up towards the end of lap number 1 of proper racing, lap 4 in total, it is Peter Ebner who leads the way. Rob Sever second, having fallen back a little bit now. In 3rd place in the gloom, Marcel Nooren, and is there a change imminent for 4th place? Håkan Rickness looking up the inside there of Jordan Witt, but he couldn't find a way by. The Chevron able to brake much later as it goes down towards turn 1. So you got, at the moment, Nooren 3rd, 4th is Witt, 5th is Rickness, and then in 6th place, it is Bernhard van Oranje. There, look, you can see the next little battle developing as Carsten Struve just works his way up on the inside of Jörg Wiebahn in the blue BMW. A replay here of Daniel Uckermann accelerating through turn 2 as he applies the power. Round comes the back. And thankfully, everybody able to miss him. And Uckermann has got going, but he is down in 14th and last place. And this is the replay of how 3rd place changed. Marcel Nooren up the inside. In fairness, Jordan Witt gave him racing room there rather than making a big deal of it. Marcel Nooren, who's raced in Dutch GTs and in the BMW Cup in his homeland, easily through on the inside. Now, can he set off in pursuit of the top 2 is the next question. He is 2.5 seconds back, 50 minutes plus a lap. We've had exactly 10 and 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 seconds gone, as now you can see the way that Marcel Nooren is indeed getting onto the back of Rob Sever as they work their way up towards the NGK chicane, but staying with him is Jordan Witt, and also joining the party now in the red and white Porsche there all over the curves, Håkan Rickness, as they head up towards the Coca-Cola curve. The Swedish driver pulls to the inside line, and Jordan Witt tries to defend. He does defend, he moves across. It's very difficult to do the overtaking in weather like this because you're offline to do it, but Jordan Witt goes offline. That leaves the door open, and so up the inside, Håkan Rickness comes through, takes over 4th place now, and the little Chevron fading away, strangely, at the moment. The lead gap is only a second, though, now, because Severs and Nooren are getting onto the back of Peter Ebner. That was a car that was badly delayed at Spa last time out because there was a miscommunication over a pit stop and it came into the pits outside of the window and therefore was penalised accordingly. Jörg Wiebahn dropping back a little bit, having already lost out 1 spot to Prince Bernhard van Oranje. Also out up and past has gone Dietmar Lackinger in 28, and Lackinger is on a mission. And Pavel Lefterov, who won both the Spa races, down at the moment in 9th place. There is Håkan Rickness then, turning his way out of the Mercedes arena in 4th spot. The way that he's going suggests that he might be able to gain more ground, and of course he's the highest placed soloist in the race, meaning therefore the car can carry on at that pace all race. For 2nd and 3rd, Rob Sever versus Marcel Nooren, a sideways Sever, and off the road has gone the BMW in the hands there of Dietmar Lackinger. No damage, finds a gear, finds the road, carries on again, but that's delayed the chances of him and Jan Kasperlik. It was coming through the Mercedes arena, and then he had to wait for a gap in the traffic. So the spin itself cost time, but then Dietmar Lackinger losing even more ground as he had to wait to rejoin. And finally, he's away and racing once more. Another car that's been delayed is Thomas Martinson's BMW. That's fallen back into last place now, passed by Daniel Uckermann, I should say, in the KTM. Right, up towards the end now of lap 6, and there, a slow Porsche. Rickness has got a problem, and the ignition is off and on. You can see the lights coming on and off, but the Porsche has got a big problem. He's missed pit in. Now, can he get it to fire back up again? Yes, it looks like it's picked up pace, but that's dropped him down the order and cost him time. Over the line has gone Peter Ebner, leading by 1.5 seconds from Rob Sever, who has still got chasing after him Marcel Nooren. Up to 4th again is Jordan Witt. Up to 5th now is Jörg Wiebahn. Up to 6th is Bernhard van Oranje. 7th it is Pavel Lefterov, and in 8th place Hakan Riknes. Now, has that Porsche been able to get around the problem, or is it going to strike again? It's still going reasonably strongly through the Mercedes arena, as there you can see the next of the little battles that we have between number 1 BMW of Bernhard van Oranje, and behind him is Pavel Lefterov looking for a way past with the Lotus Evora. One of the nice things about the GT4 series is the huge scope of car that's eligible, and here you've got BMW versus Lotus, the GT4 version of the M3, regarded by some, I suppose, BMW's M3 as largely a touring car, but it's eligible for GT4, and it's good to have so many on the grid. Down towards the hairpin, Pavel Lefterov in the Lotus, in proper Lotus colours as well. This turns his way through the corner. And is he going to be able to swing up the inside and accelerate out of the corner and challenge? The Bulgarian driver is right there behind Bernhard van Oranje, the Dutch prince, Jörg Wiebahn's blue BMW up the road. And then behind them, trying to get back into the mix, is Hakan Riknes. So whatever it was that slowed him coming out of the chicane, he had to seemingly reset something. Could it have been an electronical issue? Well, by the ignition going on and off, as we saw on the lights going on and off, it looks like he has been able to reset it and sets off in pursuit. Lefterov, though, in the meantime, is right there on the back of Van Oranje now as they come up towards the chicane. Lotus to the inside. Is he going to brake late enough? Yes, but he's offline, so it's going to be very, very slippery. But Pavel Lefterov goes through, up on the inside line. Goes left, goes right, comes out of the chicane ahead of Bernhard van Oranje now, and then behind, Hakan Riknes is joining in, and look, the fog is coming down a little bit more, visibility more difficult as they head towards the Coca-Cola curve. Now, the race leaders have gone through with the gap down again. Rob Sever not carving his way onto the back of Peter Ebner, but he is chipping away, and it's down to 1.2 seconds. This is the replay of BMW dramas, Van Oranje and Dietmar Lackinger from earlier on. That is how Lackinger came to grief on the outside of the Mercedes arena, because there was a nudge from number 1. Now, is that going to have any repercussions, I wonder, for Bernhard van Oranje? We'll see. There are the 3 leaders then. Peter Ebner is ahead of Rob Sever, who is ahead of Marcel Nooren, the BMW dealer Rob Sever second, and in 4th place there, the little white chevron, run these days by Redline Racing, Simon Leonard's Yorkshire team, and Jordan Witt at the wheel of the car, going strongly. Hakan Riknes looks like he has got around the problem, and the incident between number 1 and number 28, Van Oranje and Lackinger, will be investigated after the race. So, for the moment, with the conditions, the race director has got enough to worry about. They'll have a look at that at the end of the race as they come down to the hairpin now. Hakan Riknes on the power. If you're wondering why that blue number is flashing, it's the sort of Lumirank display to tell fans where a car is in the race classification. 8th is where Riknes is. And so as the cars go by, you can see from the side where a car is in the race. And 8th place for Hakan Riknes, and he's chipping away to get back onto the tail there, look, of Bernhard van Oranje. The race-leading gap was 1.2 seconds, and up towards the chicane it looks less again. Sever taking Marcel Nooren with him, getting up onto the back there of the yellow and black KTM. The Austrian-built KTM Crossbow, these days the closed car. It's a very distinctive shape. And Peter Ebner and Sascha Halek, the 2 drivers. Halek quicker than Ebner, but equally, Simon Knap will take over from Rob Sever, and he's the quicker of the 2 there. And Jelle Beelen will take over from Marcel Nooren. So each of these cars with a quicker driver for the second stint. So it's going to be a fascinating race, this. They're 3 as 1 now, with 1.3 seconds covering the 3 leaders, going down towards turn 1 into the Mercedes arena again. And Rob Sever then at the wheel of the BMW, hugely experienced BMW racer. Drives them at weekends, sells them during the week. Gets all sideways, though, coming into turn 2, and that gives Marcel Nooren a chance just to drag the sideways Chevrolet up onto the back of him. But if they start squabbling, it'll delay them, but it's not delaying them yet, look, because Sever is right onto the tail now of Ebner, who's starting to feel the pressure a little bit. Every lap, he's got to be conscious of where the opposition is, but also conscious that he's the pioneer to find the puddles. He's always having to assess the grip levels before anybody else. Down to the hairpin they come, all of them looking a bit twitchy under braking. Sever through the hairpin, Nooren right on his tail. Is there enough torque to drag the Chevrolet up out of the corner? He can't find a way up alongside the BMW, that's for certain. So Rob Sever in the Ecris run BMW hangs onto the place. Hakan Riknas still charging on lower down. He's in 8th place, but he's being warned about exceeding track limits now. So even in these conditions, drivers getting a little bit carried away in places. 4 for the lead now. It's starting to bunch up again. 3 seconds covering the leading quartet. And it's game on for second spot. Rob Sever now having to defend from Marcel Nooren. Hugs the inside line, heading up towards the chicane. Nooren thinks about it and then thinks better of it. Not really on that. So as they work their way through the chicane, through the left, through the right, sideways as Sever puts down the power. Jordan Witt coming back at them now. Look, the little chevron through the twiddly bits, able to gain an advantage. He's back onto the tail of Marcel Nooren. They work their way up through the Coca-Cola curve. And last time, half a second was the advantage that Ebner had. It's much, much greater now because they've been battling behind him. 1.6 seconds the advantage now. It really has shot up. And so as the leaders come through, second and third together again, Marcel Nooren thinks about the outside line as they drop down now towards turn 1. And right on his tail there is Jordan Witt, certainly becoming part of this battle again now. Benefiting because Nooren's got a bit stuck behind the defending Sever, and so BMW, Chevrolet and Chevron, the 3 of them together, all of which is enabling Peter Ebner to get away, and a sideways Sever fishtails his way out of turns 2 and 3. Marcel Nooren right onto the tail of him, and Jordan Witt there as well. Out of the Mercedes arena. And where does the chevron go? Everywhere it wants to be. There's a big Chevrolet in the way. And then have a look behind in 5th place as well. Jörg Wiebahn is lapping quicker now than these two. Sever definitely holding up Marcel Nooren. Jordan Witt's got a bit stuck, and it won't be long before the blue BMW of Jörg Wiebahn is with them. There it is in the background, coming out of the hairpin. Nooren challenges up towards the outside line now, heading into the Bilstein curve. Is he going to be able to find a way by there? No, he's not. What about the inside for the second element? Thinks about it, has a long look, can't do it. But now, definitely, that Chevrolet is looking much quicker than the BMW. And Marcel Nooren getting a little bit more agitated because you can see now the KTM is driving away up the road. There is a drier line emerging as well now as they head towards the chicane. That should, in theory, help the more powerful Chevrolet that now does make a move. This is brave stuff by Nooren, offline into the chicane, and through he goes, up into 2nd place. But can Rob Sever fight back? Yes, he almost gets up alongside coming out of the chicane, but Marcel Nooren hangs onto the position now as they work their way to the Coca-Cola curve once more. And look behind them, Jordan Witt in the chevron right there on the tail. But he's going to lose out, I fear, in a straight line. So keep an eye next to the blue BMW of Jörg Wiebahn. All of this, though, has enabled the leader, Peter Ebner, to get away once more by 2.6 seconds. Up the inside tries to go Jordan Witt, but in a straight line, that little 2-litre turbo car doesn't really have as much power as the BM, so it's got to be through the corners, and Jordan breaks late round the outside into turn 1. If he comes out of this ahead, that'll be a really good move. They're level going up to turn 2, and on the inside line, Jordan Witt goes through. Great bit of driving there. Set it up at turn 1, pull the trigger approaching turn 2, and through he goes, up the inside, except Rob Sever fights back. The big grunty BMW tries to come up round the outside as into the pit lane has just come the Chevrolet of Luc Brahms. Now that car was way, way down in 13th place, but with the pit window open, that is going to give now Duncan Houseman the maximum time in the stint, which is a good move. As so, Witt up ahead of Sever turns into the hairpin with right there behind him Jörg Wiebahn now in the blue BMW. This is 3rd, 4th and 5th. Witt, Sever, and then tucked up behind Wiebahn. And not only that, but Jordan Witt also looks like he's going to be able to do something about Marcel Nooren because he's starting to inch back up onto the tail of the Camaro just up the road ahead of him. The BM battle raging on. And a sideways Rob Severs there wags the tail in the face of Jörg Wiebahn as they accelerate their way now up towards the Advan Bogen and then the NGK chicane at the end of the lap. To the inside goes Wiebahn. This is for 4th place, and Rob Sever now, having lost that 2nd place, really is dropping down the order. He's lost 2nd, 3rd, and now 4th. Is he going to lose 5th? Because charging along behind him as well is Lefterov, and in fact, Rob Severs makes his pit stop now. In he comes to give way to Simon Knapp. But Duncan Houseman's going to be the one to watch, I think, once he's made the pit stop. Here is the replay of how Marcel Nooren got up the inside, and the race leader comes into the pit lane as well. So Peter Ebner is in to give way to Sasha Halak. Down the pit lane comes KTM. Also Rob Severs is in. You see in replay how he lost out to Marcel Nooren. And then this was how Jordan Witt managed to find a way by. But the pit stop's now coming thick and fast because we've also got Prince Bernhard van Oranje, who is in, and 18 Karsten Struve is in to give way to Peter Terting, the former DTM racer, and also in as cam number 90, which is Joachim Söderström, to give way to Milton Lundström. So the pit lane is busy. This is the KTM. Peter Ebner out. The whole roof and cockpit area comes open, so there's lots of room to work for the drivers here. They can almost stand upright. In slides Sascha Halleck. Does the belts. The steering wheel will go back on. And with these stops being 90 seconds, there's plenty of time for everything to be done safely. It's not a mad panic. And Peter Ebner helps to strap in his co-driver. No problems about the pit stop times for them in this race, unlike Spa. Also in the pit lane is Rob Severs giving way to Simon Knapp. There is Bernhard van Oranje as well giving way to Ricardo van der Ende, former Formula Ford Festival winner. He is always quick, so one to watch. And away now goes Sascha Halleck. 90 seconds, pit in to pit out. If they've timed it right, he'll be good to go to the end. If they've cut it short, he'll have a stop go to make up the difference. So back on track goes the KTM. It retains track position over number 8 BMW, now Simon Knapp. The rest of the cars pouring out of the pit lane behind. So we should now have in the lead of the race the chevron, because Jordan Witt has got himself up again past Marcel Nooren on that lap. So there, look, the little white chevron getting quicker and quicker as the race wears on, into the lead now. And Jörg Wiebahn in the BMW challenges up the inside there, going into the first corner. Nooren runs out a little bit wide. Alongside him comes Wiebahn. That's going to put him on the outside line for the next corner. He can't find a way by, but the inside through turns 2 and 3 could open up for him. Jörg Wiebahn, an experienced driver. And as he dives through, does he on the inside? We have a look at the chevron that leads the way for second spot. Inside becomes outside, next corner to next corner. And back into view, Nooren fends off Wiebahn. Because they're squabbling though, so Jordan Witt is getting away up front. The gap is opening, and here is Wiebahn for second place up the inside. Through he goes. The former Aston Martin racer in this championship goes through on the inside. And Jörg Wiebahn, who's also been a VLN competitor, knows his way around the Nürburgring in this and the Nordschleife configuration, but he's all sideways there. Look, going through the Bilstein S, fends off Marcel Nooren, and then behind you've got the Lotus now, Pavel Lefterov. The next pit visitor has been Daniel Uckermann after his early spin. At the end of this next lap, we'll have a look and see where the best of the pit stoppers is, and also work out where 90 seconds is going to drop the new race leader Jordan Witt. Here is the 90 seconds being rattled off by Daniel Uckermann. He'll rejoin as soon as he can. Just over the line has gone Sascha Halleck, chased by Simon Knapp. The gap between those two, in fact, only 3.5 seconds. In comes Witt, in comes Marcel Nooren. So that's going to give us Jörg Wiebahn now into the lead of the race, because he stayed out a little bit longer in the blue BMW. So here comes Jordan Witt. That's the end of his stint, Witt's end, therefore. So Jordan Witt comes in to give way to Marcus Clatten, who's another very, very quick driver. And really enjoys this series. Goes to some great circuits, some good cars. And there is the man from Oldham with his very distinctive crash helmet. Marcus Clatten then helps drag Jordan Witt out of the car. Jordan, a bigger guy, so the jockey size Marcus Clatten slots easily into the car. Here's the replay of Jörg Wiebahn versus a sideways Marcel Nooren, but it was the inside line at one corner for Wiebahn, but then that was the outside for the next, so the Chevrolet back through. So we had Witt in, we've had Nooren in, we've also had Dietmar Lackinger in, and 66 has come in. Thomas Martinson to give way to Oscar Kruger. This was Wiebahn to the inside line at the hairpin. Up the inside, through for the place. Right, pit stop nearly done. Jordan Witt work over, and the door does close. And now the countdown to the end of the 90 seconds takes place. Fastest lap of the race, incidentally, done by Hakan Ricknas earlier on. Now, the number 21 Porsche, remember, was delayed. He has yet to pit. He's staying out there, having done another personal best lap. So he is the fastest man on track, Hakan Ricknas, but he's still got to make his pit stop. So anything he's gaining at the moment, he's going to lose out again. 15, now in the hands of Sascha Halleck. Comes up towards the line. There, look, ready to rejoin is Marcus Clatten. And this is going to be important. If that little chevron gets out ahead of the KTM, that's going to put it into the mix for the race lead. It's not quite going to happen. It's going to be close, I think, as the KTM comes around the outside. And there, look, you can see now how close it is going to be between Halleck and Clutton. Marcus Clutton is a very quick driver indeed, so this promises to be a really good battle. Now, Halleck knows what the track is like. He's been out there for a lap more than Clutton has. Marcus has now got to get himself up to speed, but it won't be long before he does so. Behind them, you've got Jelle Beelen fishtailing his way through ahead of the Simon Knapp BMW now. So the top four, very jumbled compared to what we had earlier. And the fastest man on the track now is number 18, Peter Terting. Now, Peter, you might remember a long, long time ago, was the German Volkswagen Lupo champion. He had a spell driving for Audi in the early days of the second coming of the DTM, but it was perhaps a little bit too much too soon for him. He fell away rather after that, did some World Touring Car racing for Seat. He's raced in the International GT Open Championship, but these days Peter Terting doesn't do a huge amount of racing, but very, very competitive. And so he is currently in 9th place as you look at Jörg Wiebahn in the pit lane. But Terting, having taken over from another ex-DTM racer, Carsten Struve, will be one to watch, that's for sure. Now, the race order before the pit stop was Wiebahn, Lefterov, and then Rickners, but they've all now pitted because we're nearly at the end of the window. And so it will be 20 minutes plus a lap once the pit window closes. Jörg Wiebahn ready to go again in the Las Moras Racing Team car. The Aston Martin that he was driving at the start of the season destroyed in a big, big accident at the last corner at the Red Bull Ring going back to June. And so, as you see there, look, Simon Knapp come up and challenge on the inside. Is he going to be able to find a way by Jelle Beelen? Side by side out of the corner, up towards the timing line they go. And this is now going to really shuffle the order because back into the lead, let's see, is it going to be Lefterov in the Lotus or is it going to be Halleck? It is Halleck, but the Lotus goes second. Wiebahn is up to third and off the road goes Sasha Halleck. He's outbraked himself at the first corner. On the pit stops then by staying out late, Pavel Lefterov leads. Jörg Wiebahn goes second. Third is Halleck. Fourth now is Marcus Clutton. Up the inside to fifth was trying to go Jelle Beelen in the Chevrolet. And so it's a very, very different order now going into the start of the second stint. Tremendous race this has turned out to be. And Pavel Lefterov leads Jörg Wiebahn with a very, very determined Sasha Halleck trying to get past. Then you've got Marcus Clutton ahead next of Simon Knapp in the BMW, who's managed to get himself back up ahead of Jelle Beelen. The leading 6 drivers then down towards the hairpin. It is 20 minutes plus a lap to go. And Pavel Lefterov, who won both races at Spa, leads the way now. Jörg Wiebahn running in second spot. Now, Wiebahn has worked his way up from 11th on the grid, so it's been a good, solid run, this, by Jörg Wiebahn. He's sideways coming out of the Bilstein S up towards the Advanbogen now. 5th and 6th, just dropping away a little bit. Simon Knapp having to work hard to keep Jelle Beelen at bay. And then in 7th spot, as they work their way now, up towards us, it should be Hakan Rickners, I would have suggested, as the leaders break for the chicane. In fact, it is Peter Terting who is up into 7th place. He got himself ahead on the pit stop. So there, look, the orange and white Porsche. That could yet be the winning car. The way that Terting is going, incredible drive this. Up towards the end of the lap then. So it is going to be Pavel Lefterov. He leads the way and is under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Now, is that the reason that the car got out ahead? Was it too short a pit stop? It is under investigation for Article 21.3. And that is, yeah, the pit stop time and the pit stop speed. So it looks as though there could be a penalty looming for the race leader. Pavel Lefterov gained on the pit stops, and that potentially is the reason why. So they're going to have a look and make sure that the full time was adhered to. Pit in to pit out. In the meantime, though, Sasha Halleck is coming under attack for his 3rd place from Marcus Clutton's car in the hands now as off the road goes Sasha Halleck. That's his 2nd mistake of the race. Peter Terting has got himself up past Jelle Beelen in the Chevrolet. The next target is Simon Knapp. The BMW able to take advantage there of the mistake made, a corner back by Sasha Halleck. So it is Lefterov, Wiebahn, Clutton. Up into 4th now goes Knapp. But look, Terting up the inside of Halleck in the Porsche. Absolutely flying. Tremendous drive this by Peter Terting. He's raced at a higher level than many of those around him, so you can kind of expect it. But he's still got to work his way through on a wet road and go offline to do the overtaking. He's done the fastest lap of the race. And Peter Terting in the Porsche then. Up onto the back now of the KTM in the hands of Sasha Halleck. And this is how he got it wrong in the Mercedes arena. He just carried too much speed into the corner, ran wide. That then compromised him for the next corner, and as he had to sort himself out, so up the inside charged Simon Knapp, and Peter Terting getting in on the act as well. Now the fog is closing in again, rather worryingly. And a stop and go for number 6. The pit stop was too short. A stop-go penalty for car number 6. Now, whether there's any time to stop or it's a very quick stop and literally go again, we're not being told. But certainly, the message says a stop and go for car 6. So the race leaders go through. Pavel Lefterov then leading the way, but he will not lead for much longer. In real terms, then, it's what's happening behind him we need to look at. Jörg Wiebahn is ahead of Marcus Klatten, and Peter Terting runs 4th, which is now really 3rd. So the Porsche could still be on here for a race win. He's lapping quicker than those ahead of him. 17 minutes plus a lap to go. And despite a bit of damage on the front right corner, Peter Terting now works his way right onto the back of Marcus Klatten as they head down towards turn 3. Through he goes up on the inside. Klatten was about to turn in, saw him coming, backed out of that, and so the charging Porsche goes by. Peter Terting works his way now down towards the hairpin. He's in 3rd on the road, which is really 2nd, given that Lefterov has to make a stop-go. So he will have to give up the race lead. And in these conditions, the many, many years of experience of Peter Terting coming into good effect. Now, not only is Lefterov having to worry about this Damocletian penalty, but he's also being caught by Jörg Wiebahn on this lap. There, lower down, you can see Jelle Beelen. And Duncan Houseman, who we've not really talked about too much, is down in 10th place, struggling a bit. I think Luke Brahms lost too much time early on in the race, and so Duncan Houseman is charging on, doing personal best laps, and he's not that much slower than Peter Terting, but he's got too much ground to make up. The leaders work their way towards the chicane. Terting now set to make his move for 2nd place, which is going to become the race lead, of course. Lefterov due in to serve the stop-and-go penalty. Peter Terting up the inside of Jörg Wiebahn, and into the race lead he now goes. Pavel Lefterov comes into the pit lane. The officials are there ready with the stop-and-go boards. So Peter Terting takes over the race lead in Carsten Struve's Porsche. Working his way then now up from 12th on the grid to a race lead. Wiebahn runs 2nd. 3rd is Klatten. 4th over the line is Knapp. 5th is Halak. 6th is Beelen. And it was literally a stop-go. There was no time added into the penalty for Pavel Lefterov, who's back on his way. As down to turn 1 they come. There, look, Jelle Beelen up on the inside of Sasha Halak as they work their way round turn 1. He comes out ahead, or does he? Nose is in front up towards turn 2, but then he's on the outside line. Can he find a bit more grip on the outside? He's sideways, and he has done it. He's gone around the outside of Sasha Halak. So the KTM falling down the order. And there, look, behind them is Hakan Riknes. Now, he too is charging, delayed early on when the car slowed and had to be reset, effectively, coming out of the chicane. But Hakan Riknes has certainly not given up yet. So down they come into the hairpin. And again, Sasha Halak goes wide. And off the road there is Jelle Beelen all over the grass. So he's got it all wrong into the hairpin, slithers out wide, loses 2 places as a result. Up past him goes Halak. Up past him goes Hakan Riknes now as well. And further up the road is Simon Knapp coming back at Marcus Klatten. Here is a replay of what happened coming out of the Mercedes arena. With a little tap in the tail there from Sasha Halak to say to Jelle Beelen, come on, hurry up, get on with it. And then off he went down at the hairpin. So Hakan Riknes goes by, so also does Halak. Again, the weather conditions having a big impact here, continuing to shuffle the order. Peter Terting then in replay, up the inside in Carsten Struve's Porsche, a car that he races in the Swedish GT Championship. Carsten, but go back 2 decades, he had an Alfa Romeo 155 in the Class 1 era of the DTM and the International Touring Car Championship, the ITC. So Terting it is who leads. Up over the timing line. 2nd is Jörg Wiebahn. 3rd is Klatten. Ignore the drivers' names for the moment, the drivers that did the first stint. 4th is Simon Knapp, but only just because, in fact, up the inside now goes Simon Knapp for 3rd place. He breaks later than does Marcus Klatten for turn 1. Klatten tries to get back ahead of him. Behind, Hakan Riknes now goes ahead of Halak, but he goes out wide, so the Porsche still in the thick of the battles all the way around the lap. Marcus Klatten about to make a move to try to retake 3rd place as they work their way through the Mercedes arena again. Is he going to be able to do it? Not there, he's not. And the incident between Jelle Beelen and Sasha Halak is going to be investigated after the race as well. That was the little contact coming through the Mercedes arena, but that was a corner before it ran off the road. Anyway, it's going to be investigated, and they've got themselves back together again. So there, look, Håkan Riknes ahead of Jelle Beelen, ahead of Sascha Halek, and up the inside comes Ricardo van der Ende, who is the next one to get into this mix as well. It's like a handicap race, this. The quicker cars getting up towards the front of the order as the race wears on, and Ricardo van der Ende up round the outside of Sascha Halek now. Through he goes. That's going to give him 7th spot. 6th won't be long before it falls to him as well, because straight away he's on the back of Jelle Beelen, but van der Ende runs out wide there up onto the curb. Keeps his foot in, drags the BMW out of the corner. Now sets off in pursuit of the Chevrolet, and the weather is getting nastier again. Look, over on the far side of the circuit, up towards the NGK chicane. At certain parts, it's pretty decent, given how much rain we've had. At other parts, like here, it is very, very grim indeed. Over the timing line has just gone the race leader, Peter Terting. He leads the way. In 2nd spot, it is Jörg Wiebahn, and the gap is 5.5 seconds now. Simon Knapp in 3rd place. It is Marcus Klutton 4th, 5th Håkan Riknes. And a replay here of Håkan getting himself up on the inside of 15. Sascha Halek running wide, but not too wide at turn 1, so the place his. And they're also trying to get in on the act once more, Jelle Beelen in the Chevrolet. 11.5 minutes to go. Barring a disaster, Peter Terting is going to be on for a win here. He's managed to work his way up to, through and away from the opposition, but it's all happening behind him. The Pro Sport Performance Porsche then leads the way. It's a much underrated championship, the European GT4 Series. There's a good spread of cars, there's a good mix of drivers, and some good racing. And the weather conditions have impacted upon that today, but it has given some lively racing, and it's going to be a win seemingly for Peter Terting, but behind him the battles are not done yet. It really is a shame though that there isn't another 10 cars. There's such a great scope of car that's eligible for this, but for some reason people just aren't yet convinced by it. But you go to some good circuits, you get lots of track time, 2 free practice sessions, 2 qualifyings, 2 races of 50 minutes plus a lap each. And because you can have a co-driver if you so desire, you can split costs accordingly. So it's a concept that should work well. GT4 burgeoning once more in the British GT Championship, and this the standalone series that has grown out of the Dutch Championship once more. GT3 never went to Holland, it was always GT4. It became very strong, and so it spread its wings back into a European series. Some people like travelling, some don't, but it is a very good concept, this championship, and it's given a very good race here. The first of 2 today, this wet, soggy Sunday at the Nürburgring. Terting to Wiebahn, 8 seconds now. That is pretty much job done. But Simon Knapp there in the white BMW is inching up onto the back of Wiebahn for 2nd place. Marcus Klutton is 4th in the Chevron. But Håkan Riknes, 2nd place possible maybe in the Porsche. Let's see, that last lap was a 48. He's lapping 10ths quicker than those ahead, but the way that this race has been such a roller coaster suggests that anything could yet happen ahead of him. So Håkan Riknes in 5th place, and the Porsche seeming to like these conditions as well, given how strongly Terting is going. Riknes, don't rule him out yet of certainly a podium, maybe even the 2nd step on it. There is Peter Terting through the hairpin. 9.5 more minutes to run. Turns his way now up once more towards the Bilstein curve. As there behind, Håkan Riknes is getting closer and closer to Marcus Klutton. Now Jörg Wiebahn has managed to shake off Simon Knapp for the moment. Knapp goes through in the BM. There is Riknes in the Porsche. And just to let you know that into the pit lane has come Jan Kasperlik, who was down in 13th place, but his BMW was just pitted. And so a frustrating race for him and his co-driver Dietmar Lackinger because of being tapped into a spin early on in the race. So what's all this about? The car came in with a fair amount of haste. Dietmar Lackinger goes to have a word with the driver. And consternation as to why he's arrived. They're not doing anything. So in is Kasperlik. Does he stay in? There's car number 8, Simon Knapp at the wheel of it. Down in 3rd place with Klutton and Riknes catching up behind him. Over the timing line has gone the race-leading 911 GT4. And the man behind the wheel of it is Peter Terting, who goes through, and somewhere in the gloom behind are the headlights of Wiebahn, the headlights of Knapp, then Klutton, and then Håkan Riknes getting closer and closer. Riknes in the red and white Porsche pulls out, has a look, slots back in again as they go down towards a still soaking turn 1 into the Mercedes arena. Behind in 6th place, Jelle Beelen dropping away. 7th, Ricardo van der Ende not really making much more progress now. His lap times have plateaued a bit in the BMW. In 8th place, remember, he's had a number of incidents after taking over the car, Sasha Halak. 9th is Duncan Houseman, and 10th, after his stop-go penalty, is Pavel Lefterov. The stop-go that he had for too short a pit stop, putting him down into 10th spot now. So Lefterov with work to do, and his lap times are improving. He might gain 1 spot perhaps before the end, but it's not a shoe-in. Out of the hairpin there, running wide, is Knapp. Klassen has got Uckermann closing up behind him in the Porsche. So at the moment, it is Porsche, BMW, Chevron, Porsche, Chevrolet within the top 6. Good to see some of the Swedes coming over to the Nürburgring to take part this weekend. A bit of a slide there from Marcus Klassen in the Chevron, powering his way out of the Bilstein Curva now, but up behind him comes Hakan Riknes. Is that going to put the Porsche in a position whereby it can challenge on the run up towards the chicane this time around? Let's see in the gloom. The Chevron, with its lights barely visible, almost disappears in the fog. There it is. Marcus Klassen works his way through, turns left, turns right, up towards the Coca-Cola curve. And still, that is the section of the circuit where the visibility is at its worst. Peter Terting, then, has gotten out 6.5 minutes, just over, plus a lap still to run. Over the timing line he goes in 2nd spot. It's going to be Jörg Wiebahn, and Wiebahn now is 11/10ths up on Simon Knapp. Those BMWs looking very evenly matched. And strangely, although now we've got everybody in a line and pretty competitive, the overtaking and the drama has just faded slightly over the last couple of laps. It's not quite as frantic as it was a little while ago. Now, is this because everyone is now in a rhythm and they're not making mistakes? Is it because they've got a handle on the weather conditions? Are we now seeing the true pace of everybody in this 2nd stint? Either way, although pretty much everybody within the top 7 now is close in a line. Oh, we have a red flag. We're not getting the overtaking. The red flag is out. The race is being stopped. Now that, I'm guessing, is for visibility, because we've not seen a car off anywhere. And so, frustratingly, with 5 minutes and 55 seconds to go, it is a red flag. Race is stopped. And so, the order's not going to change, is it? Nothing had happened. The race will not resume, so it's the fog again, I think, that's come in and made it too dangerous. Big frustration. Well, they got the bulk of the race in, which was the good news. So, effectively, what was that? 43 minutes they got last time they lead across the line. Race stopped. Race will not resume. And so Peter Terting it is who takes the race win from Jörg Wiebahn and Simon Knapp in 3rd place. And yes, fog turns 9 to turn 11 is on the screen. That given us the reason. So William Otter and Emily Groom, the race director and the assistant race director, take a view. And as the view is negligible, then the fog stops play. It's one of those days, as I say, here at the Nürburgring, where the weather is having a big impact. So Peter Terting and Carsten Struve are the race winners. And a great drive by them, not to take anything away from Terting, given the way that he has excelled in these conditions. I know he's probably the most experienced driver and has raced at a higher level than most on this grid, but even so, he didn't put a wheel wrong, charged his way into contention and got himself up onto the back of that leading group, through that leading group, and ahead and pulled away from that group. So we have the cars heading down the pit lane. Into the Parc Fermé area goes Jörg Wiebahn and goes Simon Knapp. Jörg Wiebahn is the winning AM, and the second of the AMs is going to be Hakan Riknes. I suppose he's the one driver who might argue that he was frustrated by the red flag because he was potentially going to gain another place before the end, but no doubt about the winner. So Jörg Wiebahn there, out of the blue BMW. More points for him in the championship. And coming into this race, the championship being led by Marcel Nooren and Jelle Beelen, well, they ended up down in 6th place. Duncan Houseman, who was 2nd, ending up in 9th. So Jörg Wiebahn being able to make some progress in the championship standings. And Hakan Riknes, the Swede, having gone solo, about to clamber out of the car. Good drive, that. It's a shame he lost the time early on when the car hesitated coming out of the NGK chicane. Pavel Lefterov is there as 3rd placed AM. So, of the pros, the winner, Peter Terting, Carsten Struve. Second of the pros, Simon Knapp and Rob Sever. And third, Marcus Klatten and Jordan Witt. The AMs won by Jörg Wiebahn, second Hakan Riknas, and third in the AM class, Pavel Lefterov. So Jörg Wiebahn there, relieved, I think, to have got to the end without too much drama. And there is the race-winning car. Peter Terting arrives. A very impressive debut in the championship for Terting and Carsten Struve. Out gets Peter. And a very happy man indeed. Peter Terting absolutely overjoyed with that race. Proof that he can still deliver. And a very, very good result for Peter Terting. Spent some time living in America. And his racing career, as I say, has perhaps fallen off the radar a little bit. But Peter doing a great job. Carsten Struve there to congratulate him. And proof of how teamwork should be. Good first stint by Carsten, and Peter Terting takes race honours, brings the car home, and poses for the photographs. A very, very happy combination of drivers, both ex-DTM racers, but enjoying themselves at this level and doing a great job. And a few private words from Carsten Struve to say, well done, what a great job. So they will make their way now up towards the podium. And other drivers discussing life. Pavel Lefterov there, trying to wriggle his way past Jörg Wiebahn. He was, in the end, down in 10th place. This is how the result was. Then at the end of 21 laps, a win for Peter Terting and Carsten Struve. In second place, Jörg Wiebahn ahead of Simon Knapp and Rob Sever. Fourth, Jordan Witt and Marcus Klatten ahead of Hakan Riknas, with Jelle Beelen and Marcel Nooren. Sixth from Ricardo van der Ende and Bernhard van Oranje. Sascha Halak and Peter Ebner 8th ahead of Duncan Houseman and Luke Brahms. Pavel Lefterov was 10th, Daniel Uckermann 11th, and in 12th spot it was the next to the BMWs of Milton Lundström and Joachim Söderström ahead of Kröger and Martinsen, with Kasperlik and Lackinger having eventually pitted and therefore retiring from the race. So you can see that some parts of the circuit are fine and others are decidedly gloomy. The drivers make their way to the podium. Race 2 is coming up at the end of the day at 25 minutes past 4 local time. Join us for that if you can. But for now, from David Addison, let's have a look at some of the highlights of Race 1 for the European GT4 Series, and we'll see you later on in the day. Bye for now.
Liebe Motorsportfreunde, wir dürfen damit in der GT4 European Series langsam aber sicher auch zur Siegerehrung übergehen. Sie haben allesamt hier oben Einzug gehalten in einem etwas verkürzten Rennen zugegebenermaßen. Und ich denke, vielleicht ist es an der Zeit, dass wir einfach mal die Jungs so ein bisschen nach vorne bitten, dann brauche ich nicht so schreien. Mich versteht nämlich sonst keiner. Das ist ein altbekanntes Prozedere. Denn wir beginnen ja bei dem Drittplatzierten, Plätze 3 und 2. Also kommt einfach mal alle nach vorne. Dann können wir wenigstens die Einzelnen dann auch aufrufen. Die hören mich immer noch nicht, ne? Siehst du? So einfach ist das. Die wollen, ja, wollen die bestimmt. Garantiert wollen die gleich nach draußen kommen. Also, unsere Pro-Wertung, mit der werden wir dann in Kürze beginnen können. Ja, sie schieben sich jetzt langsam dann doch alle hier in Richtung des Ausgangs. So sollte es sein. Demnach beginnen wir auf Rang 3 der Pro-Wertung. Von Chevron Cars, congratulations to the third place in the Pro category, John Witt and Marcus Clatten.
So the podium getting underway with the Pro-Am drivers making their way out. Marcus Clatten and Jordan Witt, the Red Line Racing engineers, ready to cheer them. For second in the Pro-Ams, Simon Knapp and Rob Sever. And the winner, Peter Terting and Carsten Struve for the top step of the podium. Carsten Struve comes out first. There, Peter Terting behind him. And the pair for the top step of the podium, it is the Pro Sport Performance team who will be represented as well as the entrant of the winning car. The Porsche comes out on top in this first race of the weekend for the European GT4 Series. The first Porsche win of the season. In fairness, actually, Porsche victories aren't that regular in European GT4 racing. And it is Andre Schmeiss, the CFO of the GT4 European Series, who will hand over the trophies for the third-placed drivers, Marcus Clatten, and the taller frame of Jordan Witt alongside him. The Chevron, a great British brand in sports car racing terms. Thomas Oehler from the ADAC gives the trophies to Rob Sellers and to Simon Knapp for second place. The BMW drivers, and then for the victorious race performance team, Peter Terting receives his trophy and Carsten Struve his winner's trophy. And the very happy German pairing celebrates a victory in this first of two races. And the way the weather forecast is, it could be even worse. It could be much, much better come race two. It's very, very hard to second guess what the weather gods have in store here. So these, not the top three overall, but the top three from the pro class. And they will get themselves together for photographs. And then the champagne is sprayed, with Carsten Struve being understandably delighted with that, soaking his team manager. This is where he needs a second set of overalls for later on in the day. Peter Terting then, a very happy co-driver, but what a great stint it was by Terting to drag the car into contention and to take the win. It's a shame that we didn't have either of the Sins start that race, the Chevrolet V8 engine cars not making it to the grid, whether the drivers felt that the conditions weren't for them or whether there was something more sinister, pass. But either way, those cars not getting to the grid. So Jörg Wiebahn, who was second overall, is also the winning amateur driver. And in a moment, he will make his way out onto the podium, where he's going to be joined by Hakan Riknas, the Porsche driver, whose race got away from him to an extent because of that problem early on in the race, where he had to sort of stop and reset and get going again. And then for third in the class, Pavel Lefterov, ruining the fact that the pit stop was too short, so he had to make that stop-go penalty in order to make up the difference.
Hier hinten wird noch ein bisschen weitergearbeitet, gibt uns also die Gelegenheit natürlich auch dann für die GT4 European Series auch heute Nachmittag auch hinzuweisen.
Everybody being rounded up, and I think we are just about ready. So as soon as the drivers are ready, all present and correct, then the podium ceremony for the amateur class can get underway. So 14 cars we had, but a very lively race it was too. And it's a shame, of course, that the fog stopped play. Of rather more concern, perhaps, for the officials is that it's coming in again now, and it's looking decidedly grim. So it was perhaps the right call from the officials, given how it's got worse and worse and worse since the race was stopped. So it is always a frustration for the drivers. Race directors don't like stopping races if they can avoid it, but with the fog coming down, there wasn't really much option. So, of the AMs then, for his third place, Pavel Lefterov makes his way up onto the podium now. For second spot, Hakan Rikkenes, thinking what could have been, but for the top step, it is Jörg Wiebahn taking more points in the championship and looking strong, ready for race 2 later on in the day. Just 2 more races to go in the championship, and that is going to be the final weekend at Misano in September. So for Jörg Wiebahn and for the Las Moras racing team, national anthem played, and the drivers then wait to receive their trophies. And it is Pavel Lefterov who takes third in the class, but a very frustrated expression on his face that, had it not been for the stop-go penalty. I'm not suggesting he could have repelled Peter Terting, but certainly he'd have done better than 10th overall. There, Hakan Rikkenes also left to think about what might have been, given his problem midway through the race. And Jörg Wiebahn, I reckon that's a pretty decent result for Jörg Wiebahn, because starting as he did way back on the grid, starting on the 6th row, started 11th, second place overall and a class win. Very impressive indeed. So it worked out well for Jörg Wiebahn. Pavel Lefterov poses for the photographs, but without a huge amount of joy on his face. What are they going to do with the fizz? They're going to take it away. I thought for a moment Hakan Rikkenes was going to spray Jörg Wiebahn as they left the podium, but no, as gentlemen racers, sort of. They're going to take the bubbly away and enjoy that later on. Now, of course, there are still some investigations to worry about after all of that. There is the incident between Jelle Beelen and Sascha Halleck, and there's also Bernhard van Oranje and the incident with Hakan Rikkenes as well. So there are a couple of things to resolve, but as far as the drivers are concerned, it has been a lively start to their racing, and weather conditions certainly affecting life. So race 2 coming up at the end of the day. Now the forecast was rain all day. A subsequent forecast shows the rain disappearing by about 12:30, 1 o'clock-ish, and not coming back. So that should mean, fingers crossed, a dry second race. But how much you want to read into that, given the vagaries of local weather forecasts, it is a moot point. The championship with just 2 more races after this weekend, when it heads to Misano, where weather is traditionally rather sunnier. And the GT4 European Series this weekend hooking up with the ADAC GT Masters package, along with the ADAC Formula 4. So it's another good weekend to be involved in. The Nürburgring is a great circuit anyway, even though it was much criticised when it opened for not being the Nordschleife. That was back in 1984. So it's kind of grown into what you might call a modern classic. And although it's a shame that there isn't a German Grand Prix this year, still motor racing around here is hugely popular. The Nordschleife remains busy. This Grand Prix circuit remains busy. And with some financial difficulties for the circuit, I think, now put behind it. So the future is looking a lot brighter. There was a huge amount of investment in the periphery to the circuit with the Ring Boulevard and all the buildings there, which sucked some money out of the project, and a little mini railway line, for example, was built and never used, and money perhaps spent in the wrong areas. But now the Nürburgring getting itself back on an even keel, and that, I think, means that the future is looking brighter. The World Endurance Championship is coming here in a couple of weeks' time. The DTM makes its annual visit as well in September. The Blancpain Endurance Series comes here in September as well. So busy times for the Nürburgring. But the GT4 European Series will be back on track for race 2 later on in the day. Join us for that.